Hello, fellow book fiends. So, it is time for my March book wrap up. And I read a lot of books this month, up until the wire last night, actually. I finished 20 books this month, and majority of them were from the library, so I'm going to be inserting pictures of them. And so let's go through the stats, the breakdown of what I read, the pages, the hours, and the star ratings, and then we can get into each individual book one by one and go through them, because I read some good stuff this month, I think. Okay, so we have read 20 books, 5 of which were audio, 6 were paperback, 6 were graphic novels, and 3 were DNFs over 50%, which I do count because I put in the work. If it's under 50%, then I don't count it. So, because usually if I'm DNFing it before that, it's like well before even 20%. Pages and hours that I read 4,067 pages and 92.42 hours, roughly. I wasn't going to do the math on the 3 that I DNF'd. So, roughly, ballpark. And then average rating was 3.75. So, had some good ones, had some not so great ones. But genres that I read this month were, I read 10 romance, 3 fantasy, 3 fantasy novels, 2 nonfiction, 2 dystopian, 1 contemporary, 1 thriller, and 1 horror. Rating-wise, I had 2 5-star books, 1 4.75, 2 4.5, 1 4.25, 6 4-star. And that is just generally my rule for graphic novels. 2 books were 3.75, 2 books were 2 stars, and 1 book would have been a 0 star if I could have. But it was 0.25 because that's the lowest story graph will let you go. But it would have been 0. And we'll talk about it. And I know I did it to myself. A little foreshadowing for you. Okay, so let's get into the books. So we're going to go from earliest read to most recent read in March. And that first one that I completed in March, which I actually started in February, I just didn't finish, was Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. This book is a romance between, it's a friends to lovers. And she's a comedian, and he was a really famous comedian, but then he more or less retired to take care of his daughter. And he becomes her manager, because some of this book is told in the past, and then some is told in the present, and it kind of all merges to be the present. And for the most part, I thought this was a really cute book. I really enjoyed it. This, though, left some to be desired for me. It wasn't everything that I want out of a friends to lovers. There was just some things about the relationship that I don't know quite how to put it. It just could have been more. But it wasn't terrible. It was a 3.75 for me. So it was a middle of the road, almost a 4-star. So it's not like it was absolutely terrible. And I do like Tara DeWitt as an author because I'm currently reading Savor It and thoroughly enjoying it. And I can see that one being far above a 3.75. So good, not great. Still thought it was super cute. And there were parts in here that I really enjoyed. Let me just say, umbrella tattoo. I really, really liked that. That was adorable. Next up, I'm just going to lump all of these together because I got all of them from the library, so I don't have the physical copies. But I finished the Lore Olympus series up until what we're at now, which is volumes 3 through 7. I've given them all 4 stars because they're graphic novels. But I really, really, really enjoy this series. It follows the goddess of spring, Persephone, and Hades. And basically, their developing love story. And of course, there's a bunch of side stories with the other gods and goddesses throughout all of Olympus and the underworld. And I really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot that goes on in this world. Now, is it accurate to Greek gods? I don't know. I'm here for vibes and the good time, and this Rachel Smith is a really good storyteller and artist, and I highly, highly enjoy it. And now I am just slowly going through it on the app that she releases them on to keep up with it. So I really, really am liking it a lot. I highly recommend it if you like graphic novels. The next one was a really, really big disappointment to me. So my next one was a audiobook that I got from my subscription on Everond, and it was the second in the Malice duology, Misrule. And I loved Malice. Malice was so good. It's a Sleeping Beauty retelling with a sapphic twist, but there's more to it. It's not about Sleeping Beauty per se. It's not about Aurora. It's about Alice and her connection to Aurora. And there's just so much more to it. But in this second one, I don't know what Heather Walter was thinking with this plot line. I'm sure there are people out there who like it. I hated it. I didn't like where she took Alice's character. I didn't like where she took Aurora's character. No, it was not for me. I rated it 2 stars. I was really, really disappointed because I was really excited to see where it went. Misrule was a missed hit for me. Oh, the next one, though, was such a surprise for me. I've owned this for a while, and I had no idea. I got it at my local LGBTQ plus bookstore in Salt Lake City called Under the Umbrella. Love that store, by the way. But it is by Claire Kahn, called Looking for Love in All the Haunted Places. And I got it when it was a new release, and it kind of sat on my shelf for a while. And my friend Sarah got it from her library as audio, and we do buddy reads all the time. I'm like, oh, I've got that. And so we made it a buddy read. And I'm reading it, and I'm just baffled. I'm like, why was this at the Under the Umbrella? There's no LGBTQIA plus anywhere in here. Not realizing who the author was. Silly me. Because then suddenly the main character reveals that she is Ace. And my heart swelled 5 bajillion times because I am Ace. And there's not a lot of us. So that made me very happy. And so I tabbed it up a bit, you can see. Oh, that's terrible. I tabbed some funny spots that I really, really enjoyed. But I also tabbed some spots in this book that truly, truly resonated with me. That I felt so freaking seen. there's this part where she's describing what it is to be ace, essentially. And I was just reading it, no spoilers, so. And I'm just like, oh my God. She's telling me my soul. Not to be dramatic, but seriously, oh. But I rated this book 4.25 stars. It would have been a 5-star, but there were some things where it just started to drag out that they could have wrapped it up. There were some things where I'm like, yeah, wrap it up, come on. But really, this book was so fantastic, and I'm going to definitely be rereading this in the future. I actually have another Claire Kahn book on my shelves, and I didn't even realize it. So I'm really excited for that. But highly recommend this one. So next was, ironically enough, one of my nonfictions. This at the same store. I love that store. And this is just tips and tricks for existing in an aloe world. And it goes over some interesting things, tabbed up. This is one I'll just refer back to in the future. Not much to say about this. I didn't rate this one, so not much on that one. So the next book on this was The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Everyone and their dog, I swear, read this over the last couple months since it came out. And it did look really good. People were comparing it to Daisy Jones, and it just seemed interesting to me. So I got it from Everond. And I finished this on March 11th, and I still don't fully know how I feel about it. It's just one of those books where you know it was good, or that the author did a good job because the author pissed you off so badly. But then the author pissed you off so badly. And I kept screaming at the book because I do that. And I was just like, no spoilers, but there's some major toxicity in this, and it drove me nuts. Is it worth the read? I think so. Does it live up to the hype? No. It's a good book. I rated this 3.75 stars. It's not a 5-star by any means to me, but it's a decent read. It stays with you. I will say Lane Fargo does her job. It stays with you. The next one I read was another graphic novel. I picked this up because of the wait for the actual novel. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay. It was the graphic novel of The Handmaid's Tale. I got this at the library. I was just looking for more Lore Olympus to see if it was in stock, and it was right there. And I was like, well, hello. And it was really good. Terrifying in days like these, but it was really good. It was really well done. And I thought it was really interesting. And it makes me want to pick up actual novel, and I want to have banned books, so maybe I'll seek those out on Pango. One of my next ones, this was a DNF at over 50%, was Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. If I said your name incorrectly, I apologize. I thought this would be like a cute fantasy, like cozy, lighthearted fantasy. I saw it at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to buy that, so I checked it out from Libby. I was very bored. It's not that I'm opposed to cozy fantasy, just this one was very boring to me. I didn't rate it. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I needed to rate it, so I'll leave it at that. The next one, though, this one was one of my 5 stars of the month. And that is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is so stinking cute. I got this at a local bookstore down in Salt Lake City-ish. It's all Salt Lake City, whatever. Called Book Box. And I'm one that I've had for a little while. And I could not put this one down. It was so cute. Again, this was a buddy read with my friend Sarah. She got it from the library. I said, "Oh, I have that book." And a lot of the time, that's how I end up reading books. So cute. So this is about a pop star called Ray Rose, whose real name is Amelia, who decides that she's just feeling really overwhelmed in her life, and it's just too much, and so she jailbreaks, so to speak, and takes Audrey Hepburn is her inspiration for all things, and she chose When in Rome. And so she looked up, where's the closest Rome to me? And it was Rome, Kentucky. And she finds herself in the front yard of Noah Walker. And let's just say, small town romance ensues from there. And if you're one who doesn't like open door romances, either way, I don't mind. But this had no spice, but it was very, very cute. I highly recommend it. Sarah Adams, I may have ended up buying her whole backlist, and I do have a book haul coming, which everyone can shame me for later. After that, it was another library pick that took me a while to get through because it was a chunker. It was like 500 pages. Small type. And the topic is actually really rather heavy. It's called The Radium Girls, the dark story of America's shining women. And this is all about the history of the girls who worked in radium factories. Well, not so much radium factories, but like factories that made watches and dials and things like that that glowed in the dark using radium in World War I and into World War II. And how they would apply it was with paintbrushes. But of course, the radium would dry out, so in their mouth they go, over and over, ingesting the radium. And the girls who were working there started working there in their teens, like 14, 15 years old. And by mid-20s, so many of them had died. Such a tragic book, but very fascinating. I was amazed to hear that several of the women who had radium poisoning actually didn't die and lived to have grandchildren. I was quite shocked. So very fascinating, but very gruesome in like the matter of what it's talking about. So trigger warning if that's next up are two of my most anticipated reads of the month. I was so excited for these new releases, and they were both on audiobook that I had pre-ordered from Libro FM, which I do support under the umbrella in Salt Lake City. So, the first one was the second in the Royals and Romance series by Sarah Rosh, and it was Go Luck Yourself. And this book had me giggling and kicking my feet and swooning. I loved it. This one it follows Chris as he has to make nice for certain reasons that I will not disclose because of spoilers with the St. Patrick's Day Prince Lachlan. They call him Locke. He's an artist. And he's so sexy. Seriously, this book was so spicy. It was amazing. But it was so cute. Like, oh, and how Locke just saw into Chris's soul. It was highly, highly recommend. I rated this one 4.75 stars. I truly hope she is not done with this series, though, because the Princess of Easter has yet to get her book. There are 3 of them in this trio. I expect another one, but this was really great. And then my next one was a very anticipated read for many, 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 many of us, since the trilogy came out in the early 2010s, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping. Hey, Mitch's story. And, well, let me just insert my reaction to the end of this book and leave it at that. Suzanne Collins must answer for her crimes, because that ending just wrecked me. Good God! Straight to jail. Should say enough, right? 5 stars. Next was my Book of the Month pick, Our Infinite Fates. I got this because, of course, everyone was comparing it to Addie LaRue. It even compares it in the book description. And Addie LaRue is one of my God tier books. And I can see why they compare it to that. This is about 2 souls, really, who reincarnate and reincarnate and reincarnate life after life after life for thousands of years. And in each life, before they turn 18, one way or the other, they kill each other. That is not a spoiler. That is basically the synopsis. And in this life, her name is Evelyn, and she doesn't want to die because she has a little sister that she can save because the little sister has cancer. And Arden is the male protagonist. She has to find him before he can kill her, before she's 18, so she can save her sister. Needless to say, this took a turn, like when the reveal happened, that blew my mind. My friend Sarah, buddy read girl, she's my bestie if you can't tell, she read it and was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, oh my God! So I highly recommend it. I rated it 4.5 stars. And it's a shorty. It's like under 300 pages. I loved it. And that there's a couple things in here that really resonated with me. And that last chapter, I was just like, now here comes the foreshadowing where I did it to myself. Okay. So I was falling into a book slump and I didn't want to, and I didn't know what to read. Let's go to my audiobooks that I have and see what I've got. And before I knew it was a mistake, I had purchased Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is before I knew better. I'm aware that she's who she is. And everyone keeps saying, well, this one doesn't suck. I got like 80% of the way through, and I couldn't do it. I did look up the ending, and I'm glad I didn't do it because I was furious. And the writing is horrible. It was the 0.25, and I will stand by that rating. 0 stars if I could. From that, I had to get out of that funk and read something that was good. This is where B.K. Borison comes in to save the day. I am reading the Love Light Farm series, and I am saving them for each season. So I decided, you know what? It's spring. Let's read the spring book. And so I read Into the Weeds on my audio, and it was so cute. This story follows Kit, who is a partner in the farm from the first book, and Evie, who was the Instagram social media star that they had that one night stand. And it picks up in the book, like the prologue is kind of catching them up and then transitioning into their second chance romance. And I just thought this was the freaking cutest book. There was miscommunication in it, and that is like the one trope I hate so much because I can't help but yell at them and be like, you're grown adults, you can have a conversation. Regardless. Such a cute book. I rated this one 4.5 stars. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And then lastly, I finished out the month just yesterday with a short novella that I got on the library because it was available. And I go into books blind for the most part, and this one proves that sometimes that's not a good idea because I still don't know what the hell I read. I read Graveyard Shift by ML Rio because I heard good things. I gotta stop listening to people. I really do. But this one, it just follows a group of people at a college who, there's no smoking on campus anywhere. And so they meet in this really old graveyard to smoke. And then they find an open grave that wasn't there the night before. And things go from there. But it's not what you think. And it was weird. Obviously, I still am just so... Huh? Anyway, I rated it 2 stars because I'm just like, what the hell did I read? I powered through because it was only 3 hours. And I listen at like 1.5, 1.75 sometimes, and so it didn't take me that long, but I'm just like, huh? And I like stuff like that, but not that one. Anyway. So that was my reading journey for the month of March. I feel like it was a really good month. I got 2 5-stars out of it, a romance, and of course Hunger Games. And some really good, highly rated things. Some mistakes were made in my choices. But we live and we learn, and we don't make those mistakes again in the future. What did you read this past month? Did you have any 5 stars? If so, what was it? Have you read any of the ones I read? What did you think? What should I read next? Any suggestions? Okay, enough rambling. Thanks for coming. Bye!